welcome to the Mindset Michele TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us for yet again another fabulous episode with a brilliant person joining us today. Another fabulous guest that will share their insights. Hello, Lauren.
Hello, Michele. How are you? So lovely to see you and to spend some time with you.
It's great having you on the show, Lauren. And for those of you that aren't aware, Lauren, or Lauren Pearson, I should call you by your full name for the beginning, Lauren. Lauren Pearson is the founder of the Cult of Monday. So she's a psychotherapist, a coach. She has worked for much of her career in this HR or people and culture space. And the Cult of Monday help organisations to look at not just the talent acquisition and retention side of things, but also the cultural side of things. How do you get people? How do you keep people nowadays, which is probably a bigger question? And how do you build that culture where people can grow and thrive and survive? But I'm much more excited to hear from you, Lauren. How did you set up the Cult of Monday? What is fascinating to you about working in this HR space? And please share with people a little bit more about that background of how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Great. Thank you, Michele. So I've always wanted to work for myself and to build something. I've come from a family who've done that, and we would talk around the table about businesses, and I grew up hearing about what people were doing and how they were directing their careers and their businesses. So for me, it's always been this burning desire that I've wanted to do something for myself. And I've just followed my interest, and my path has led me to a real focus on people at work, and people being well at work in whatever environment they find themselves. So Cult of Monday is more of a movement. It's an organization that works with leaders, with people in businesses, to get to a place where they want to jump out of bed on a Monday morning because they cannot wait to get to work. It's not the TGIF, it's the TGIM crew that we want to work with or get people to become part of. So that's how Cult of Monday was born. I hope that answers the question.
It's fascinating, and thank you for that. I love that juxtaposition of, TGIF to TGIM. I've not heard that before, so that's very clever and very memorable as well, which is great. So I understand from what you were saying about how you're always interested in going into business of some sort and working for yourself. But what was it that attracted you? Psychotherapy and the work that you've done in studying and learning in this area takes many years. What is it that you think you would, when you were a kid, you wouldn't have gone, oh, I want to be a psychotherapist, wouldn't have even known what one was. What is it that has excited you to kind of spend your life and spend your career working in this space?
So, like all good therapists of any kind of title, I came to psychotherapy because of my own life experiences. When I was 21, my 16-year-old sister died in a car accident. And for me to process that and make sense of it, I needed to work with a specialist. And I found myself then moving to London and working with a therapist, working in a day job, and enrolling in a master's degree in psychotherapy. And part of that, we had to commit for 4 years to our own psychotherapy. So, and it was a processing piece, but it's been people have been a real interest of mine forever. And the power of people to do good and to work in a way that contributes to the world means that there's a lot of possibility there. The thing is, though, that we all need to be well. And so psychotherapy is a tool that I use it as a tool along with coaching when I work with leaders who might be stuck, who might have habits and strategies that no longer serve them, where it can be quite lonely for leaders to lead businesses and to lead teams. This approach in working with them gets them to really understand themselves more deeply, because once we do that, we can unlock our potential. We can lead in ways we never thought possible. We can relate in ways we never thought possible. We can communicate better. We're aware of what triggers us, what our blind spots are, what our strengths are, and that just contributes to better leadership, better team dynamics, and better cultural environments.
I hear there about what Culture Monday and what the organisation does for others, but what I'm fascinated by, and thank you for sharing, it's very sad when you lose a family member so young, but thank you for sharing that was like the stimulus of the journey that you went on. And I really hear that that 4 years of doing psychotherapy on yourself is what created the groundwork and the understanding, that a very deep understanding around how people work, how psychology works, and how trauma, whatever that traumatic event might be, affects people. And it is interesting, the research on leaders shows that leaders tend to have a lot of that in their background, which is why they've become good at controlling situations, because it's kind of a reaction to that. But back to you, Lauren. I love keeping saying your name now. Lauren the Pearson, the COFM. It sounds like a union name, doesn't it? The COFM or COM Culture Monday champion, or leader movement, as you were saying earlier. What then, given that you have the successful company, I can hear the passion, and I can also hear this depth of understanding around human beings and what makes people tick. What then for you, and I'd love to hear what makes you tick in terms of what does success mean to you?
Success is a whole of life success. So having deep relationships, having longevity in those relationships, making a positive difference to the people around me, building this movement into something that becomes commonplace, that accessing support for leaders and environments and cultures becomes the way business gets done. That's what success starts to look like. And I've realized with COVID, we're not islands. We need that energy exchange between people, because that's what makes us human beings. So being in my community, joining sports clubs and networks and attending events and contributing to those events and meeting in person and virtually, being able to work across the globe and locally, that's what success looks like to me.
Wow, that's a lot of a lot of different areas, and that's okay, of course, as well. But what I hear underlying all of that is that connection, and that very much comes back to the work that you do. But I hear success for you is the relationships, and the meaningful relationships, online, offline, whatever that may be, and relationships that make a difference. And I can understand how creating the movement and having that kind of container, that this is the framework that you're moving that forward in.
Yep.
Now, people watching may not necessarily want to be creating a framework or creating a movement, but I'm sure that they still do want to create more deeper and meaningful relationships, have more meaning in their life, etc. What sort of suggestions or tips, especially being a psychotherapist and understanding humans the way that you would do, and human psychology, so what sort of suggestions and tips would you have for people about how they can do more of that for themselves in their own lives?
So I think the most important thing is to realize that life and time has taught us to create strategies and habits that keep us at a distance from ourselves. And there comes a time in life where you realize those strategies and habits no longer serve you. You're now an adult. You're not the 7-year-old or the 8-year-old child where those habits and strategies were developed to protect you. So if they no longer serve you, you have to become aware of them. And that's the first step, is accepting that there are things that we do to protect ourselves that no longer work. Right? What are they? Let's observe them in action. Once you turn your attention to them, you can't unnotice them. And just that focus and that attention starts to create change. So I would say, really stopping running away from ourselves, stopping those things that keep us divorced from ourselves, going towards the discomfort, going towards the uncomfortable feelings or the pain that we might have avoided, that creates the biggest shift. And that's really where we have to start and where we need to be.
That is a really profound and important. I'm hoping people are really hearing this, because that first step of starting with the personal awareness and understanding who you are and what you're doing, and that very important part about, is it serving you today or is it holding you back? And I really loved how you reflected there about how things that served you when you were younger perhaps are no longer serving you today. I know in my own journey of many years of self-reflection, and like yourself, you know, the mentoring and coaching as you're doing all of the different studies means that you also get to go on that journey. And that has helped me and assisted me in then observing and seeing the patterns of behaviours that may have worked for me up until that point in time, but no longer work for me. Given that this is, you know, for mostly the audience here watching are professional people, if I was to ask you for an example then, because this is a great, you know, starting place, and especially as you work in HR and that field, how can people then say, perhaps look at their behaviours or their patterns, say in their work environment, whether they work for themselves or for others, where they can say, oh, okay, that pattern or behavior, you know, it kept me safe and it kept me feeling okay until now, but it's stopping me from growing. So how could somebody identify maybe one, let's just say one small thing about themselves in that area to start with?
Yeah, great question. So there is a way that you yourself can think about the patterns that are not helping you achieve what you want to achieve or go in the direction that you want to go in. Things that you keep repeating that don't give you the momentum that you really want in your life. Noticing those patterns and then starting to dig into, why do I do that? What have I got to lose if I stop doing that? And what do I have to gain if I start doing something different? There are many psychometric tools out there, and in HR you use them for many different reasons, leadership development, team development, etc. There is one particular tool that I use with all my coaching clients, and it has the deepest level of change that I've experienced, in that it fast tracks an ability to identify patterns, and that is the Enneagram. It is a tool that identifies strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, triggers, but more than that, it tells you what to do about your growth, what you can do once you start to acknowledge those patterns. So you can do it on your own. You could do it with the help of a psychometric tool to just give you that little push, and work with a coach perhaps. But that's really what needs to happen, is to look at that little piece that only you know that you have on repeat, and how is that having that on repeat helping you or not?
Oh, so looking at patterns that we're doing where we're repeating things over and over. And I love how you were sharing there about being aware of the pattern, noticing what you're doing, And also then using different tools or techniques. So like the Enneagram that you mentioned is a great tool, because yes, you don't want to just notice the pattern and be aware of it. You then want to have some sort of strategies around, well, what can you do to build from there?
Yeah.
And another simple example, if people don't have necessarily access to HR and those sorts of tools, somebody was sharing with me the other day about they were just writing down in a notebook when they were triggered by things. So they were starting to really notice, well, if I'm in a meeting and I'm trying to say something and this louder personality type dominates the discussion, and you're nodding there because we can all relate to that. Not so much, yelling back at them or shutting up or any of those extremes, but starting to write a diary or take notes around, well, what's going inside of you? What's it bringing up? What's it triggering? So you can then, yes, once you're aware of it, make those decisions about, well, what are you going to do and how are you going to manage, not that person, because you can't change that person, but what's going on for you in that moment. And that's where I love, you've got the Enneagram and those tools and those wonderful HR tools that you can also Google. So you don't necessarily have to go through your HR or another complicated way. Or you've got something as simple as, writing it down and starting to become like an observer in your own life.
Totally.
Of what's triggering you, and making notes about, well, when this person, this is a great example as well, when this person was loud and dominated the meeting, I didn't mind because I found it entertaining and it was fun. But when this other person did it, I actually, got really agitated, annoyed, and felt like I couldn't speak up. So
why is that?
It's not about those people. It's about what is it going on in you. So
yeah. To your point, Michele, there are two things that I think we can do easily in our routine day to day. One is at the end of the day or first thing in the morning when you wake up. I like to do it at the end of the day, where you write your observations about the day. So firstly, what am I grateful for? What has been amazing today? What have I noticed? What am I thankful for? What's made my day fantastic? And then secondly, what have I observed about myself that I am just noticing? And why am I noticing what I'm noticing? If you get into that habit, and it takes 5 minutes, you start to see patterns emerging, and you start to notice things, and you start to create a little shift. The other piece is around mindfulness or meditation, which simply put is sitting outside at a quiet time of the day and just being quiet with yourself for a moment, 10 minutes. That's another very basic technique or habit that really helps us find a pause, which there is very little time for otherwise.
These are some great tools that you're suggesting here. Thank you so much, Lauren, because the again, fabulous tools that people can really simply implement into their lives. Something like a routine where beginning or end of the day, you sit back and you reflect on the day and you write out, this is what I'm grateful for, this is what I've observed or noticed. I might just add into that one, this is what I'm happy about, or not so much happy, but this is what I notice in that I was successful in the day. Because one of the things in my own journey that I realized was I never celebrated when I did things. I'd say, I'm going to go do this, this, and this, and I'd do it, and then I'd just keep going.
Yeah.
And so that celebrating the success of what you have done during the day, and it might be like, well, I'm renovating my place at the moment, so every day can be quite a lot moving parts. And so I have to celebrate, okay, we did this part of the kitchen and we're this bit closer to the end and we're this bit closer to the end. But again, with your own personal, making notes, for example, the example we were talking about, I made notes today in the meeting, so I was observing what was happening for me. So that's the success for the day. And then the other part that you've so beautifully shared around the meditation and the quiet time. You in that journey of understanding yourself and understanding what's going on for you, you need that quiet time to not be stimulated. And you again would know a lot more about this, but stimulated so much that you don't actually, your body and your brain don't have time to kind of settle down and be quiet. In fact, you remind me of and I don't know if they still do it in schools now, but the 10 minutes after lunch where you would lie and put your head in your hands and have that quiet time. Imagine officers all over the globe.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful if we could all have this quiet time of 10 minutes of, I've had lunch, so I'm now well rested.
Having a moment.
Yeah, having a moment.
Yeah.
But these are really wonderful and simple tools that I think everybody could implement. What do you think then in terms of, and I don't want to say challenging, but or difficult or any of those kind of extreme words, but when you've come across people that may say have a very strong repeat pattern in certain areas, and they have a blind spot about it, they can't see it themselves.
Yeah.
What sort of suggestions do you have for people like that where they might really want to change? And most officers, we have personality types like this, that you can see that they're nice people and they want to change, but they have some ongoing behaviours that no matter how much it's reflected to them, it just isn't getting through. But through some of these techniques that we're suggesting, they might start to think, oh, there may be a way of shifting this. What would you suggest to them?
That's a good question. In my coaching practice, I work with a lot of people that come through who in their workplaces might be getting feedback that they have an interpersonal style issue. They might be seen as bullying or intimidating or demanding. They've got all the talent and potential, but they're limiting their career trajectory because of their interpersonal style. And this can happen when people are very technically good at their job because they haven't developed the muscle that is the interpersonal communication piece. So for them, I always start with the self-awareness psychometric tool, the Enneagram that I've mentioned. And in our coaching, we work with what is the impact of that pattern on people, whether it's personal or whether it's professional. And I reflect back to them what I'm hearing and the impact of that in a way that shows them, like holding up a mirror, what their interpersonal style is doing, what the impact is. So that's what happens in the coaching session. Then they've got homework, and the homework is to go away and practice a slight tweak on their usual style with family members or with their inner circle. So if you're a command and control leader, instead of saying, I need you to, or you must, the homework might be ask a question. So how would it look like if we did this differently? Or what do you think about taking a different approach? So it's a slight tweak that they then need to practice in between sessions. And that's quite tailored to the individual and where they're at. It's shifting their normal way of operating, which becomes hardwired in how we operate, and loosening it up a bit and trying to get them to practice and play with different approaches.
What a wonderful, and I really like and pick up on the word that you used at the end there, practice and play, because I think that whoever we are, we may have things that we would like to improve or change in some way. And the easiest way, and the thing that I found through all the different programs that we run, is that when people feel like they can practice and play.
Yeah.
So getting to the point where, especially like you were talking about with the interpersonal style, if there's elements, and everybody has it, I think that, it's again, You can be really great with people but still feel very lonely. You can be really terrible with people but feel like you're always surrounded by them, etc. So wherever you are on any of these spectrums, that interpersonal and practice and play, I think, is very much one of the key things. And you reminded me as well, in my book, I interview some very senior people in the business world. And one of them shared with me that they did that 360 review. And I won't mention the name, but it came back that he was quite surprised at the results. And he was also quite shocked that when he asked his wife and all these other people that knew him very well, they said that this was true. This is who he was and what he was like. So that then led him on this incredible journey, which is what he talked about. And I think your point about it's, making that slight tweak and then practice and play, slight tweak and practice and play.
Yeah.
Because I when I'm visually thinking of it, I'm thinking about that, that journey of 1,000 miles, starting with the first step and looking at it as like pebbles that, you then start to build the whole sand on the beach or whatever, starting with one petal or one idea or one thought. So the slight tweak is very important.
It is. And recently I listened to a podcast and I really enjoyed, my key takeout was, in every breath, we get to choose or reset. We get to reset in every breath. So it's not that we need to take a giant leap. It's we need to put one foot in front of the other foot, and we need to reflect and reset. There's an opportunity each and every moment. It doesn't need to be heavy or hard going. It just needs to be something in the moment that you're course correcting as you go. And we've got an opportunity every single moment that there is.
Yes, and the leader I was talking about, one of the things that he did was he went off and became a Buddhist. And they have this wonderful expression that supports that rest and reflect that you're mentioning, because they're talking about it as being, you die 1,000 deaths each day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Lauren and the Michele speaking in this moment is completely separate to the Lauren and Michele speaking in this moment. Yeah. And that freedom, I love this expression, because it then gives the freedom that you're not bound by, and as you started, when we started to talk about suggestions, you're not bound by who you were or how you did things before. You can kind of die those 1,000 deaths a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Liberating.
Very liberating. I could talk for hours about this stuff, but Lauren, how can people get hold of you? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
So I'm active on LinkedIn, Lauren Pearson on my LinkedIn page, I've also got a Cult of Monday page, where our website is www.cultofmonday.com or at lauren@cultofmonday.com. Fabulous.
And one of the questions I really love asking people, because it shows again somehow in some wonderful way where people are at with who they are and where they are in their life's journey. So if you were to give some advice to your younger self, what might that advice be?
My advice would be, lighten up, lady. There is so much time. You need to do a lot wrong to get things wrong. Have more fun and play a little bit more. I was so focused and driven, and in time I've realized that's not necessary. You've got time, you can make mistakes, you can recover from them, and it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
I really love that. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and you have time and to have fun, and such wonderful words of wisdom to share with your younger self. And every now and then I'm reminded about the fact that as soon as we have finished having this great conversation today, at this point in time and this moment in time, When we finish, you will then be talking to your younger self. So it's a continuous, just like the
Absolutely.
Buddhists.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is continuous, you're always getting to talk to your younger self. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you come on the show today, Lauren.
Thank you, Michele. I've really, really enjoyed it. And thanks for the opportunity.
It's been fabulous. And to all of the amazing viewers, thank you so much again for the emails and the notes. We really appreciate the fabulous feedback you keep giving us about how much you're enjoying all of these different suggestions and insights from amazing experts like the lovely Lauren on the show today. But for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.